am here, one, because I would have come across some information in a group chat that I am part of, the nurses group chat, where information that appears to be coming from the PSA president, where she is informing members and public servants and nursing personnel and RHA workers and all those persons who, I guess, are looking forward to the 10% increase or starting at 10%, my friends, negotiations, that the CPO, the Chief Personnel Officer, would have responded to a letter that she would have sent to him, informing him that she, as the president of the PSA, or the PSA is ready to negotiate to bring home this 10% or starting at 10% negotiation so that public officers could get the increase in salary and the back pay, my friends. In that letter that I would have seen that was sent to our group chat is one where the CPO has responded to the letter that she would have written. And the response from the CPO is telling us and telling her that his hands are tied. The Chief Personnel Officer is telling her, I am unable to, at this very moment, come and reach you for us to negotiate because I am waiting for when the budget debate is over, and he would have received now directions from the minister and how much monies would have been allocated so that he would know what he is working with. That is basically what is in the letter, my friends. So he is telling us and telling the PSA, I am not the one that is preventing the negotiations from going forward or starting. I am waiting for the go-ahead, and part of the go-ahead is so that I would have an idea as to what kind of monies the government is prepared or have in their possession that the negotiations could start, and are starting at 10%, as we all know. So I guess what we could deduce from that is that just as no monies have been allocated in the two budgets that was read, one in June and one in October, and between June and October, also no instruction was given to the CPO to start to meet with the union so that they could start to negotiate this 10% so that it could then be placed in the budget as an item to pay public servants, my friends. So what Felicia Thomas is telling us there in this document, or in this information that's being shared, is that, listen, I know I would have said that we're going to negotiate and look into, she would have said that, I think, some time gone. And they were looking to see if public servants could get the back pay by Christmas, my friend. Now, the CPO has responded, say that he knows nothing about what she's speaking about where it's concerned. And he, just as the public servants, are waiting for the government to give the green light, or the Minister of Finance. My friends, such an important promise as part of the elections, one would think that that would be an urgent matter, knowing fully well they themselves acknowledge, according to them, that the PNM government would have ill-treated ill-treated the workers, my friends, and they are now coming to save the workers from the ill-treatment, my friends. They are coming, they promise to save us. Yeah. The PNM government, the wicked, they have a set of money, they have the money, and they don't want to share it with the workers, my friends. And they are an oppressive government. But we will not be like the PNM. We will find the money and pay it, my friends. So the question must be asked once again, public servants, when will the 10% or the back pay and the negotiation starting at 10% begin? If no allocations have been made in the budget and the CPO is saying he is waiting that when the budget, this budget here, debate and everything is completed and scrutinized, then he's expecting that the minister is going to tell him start the negotiation, because by that time he would know what kind of money has been allocated. Yes. So the CPO is saying I am waiting on the government, and we, the public servants, where this government has placed further taxes, my friends, taxes, and cause the cost of living to increase immensely. And just today, my friends, one of my good UNC friends called me from a grocery known as Extra Foods. Now that is a grocery that seemed to try and look out for the people. They would give her bargains, they would always try to give you some kind of deal. And she is saying, Preston, I am in Extra Food, and that's a person that is a UNC supporter. She is asking me what really VAT has been taken off because she have not really picked up any stuff really, and the amount of money that it comes up to, she's very angry. So I told her, I said, whatever VAT has been taken off of whatever item, I know for sure it's salt and everybody talking about Morbi and that kind of thing. I said it's not real stuff that could really bring benefit of substance. I said, but what is real? What is real is the taxes that have been placed on the importers of the food and our drinks. That is a real tax that has been placed on entry at our ports, that those who are importing the goods would have to pay more. So the groceries to transport it, besides doubling the port fees to transport it, then the grocery and then the electricity has been raised in these business places, including the groceries. So the owners of the groceries, even though they may have been looking out for the people when in the hard times, that they are now forced to raise the prices because of the actions of this present government, my friends. Now, so you can imagine, now, and that person I'm speaking about, she is gainfully employed. Gainfully employed. What about those who was gainfully employed, meaning, because it was gainfully employed, the CPEP workers, the URP workers, the money that they were getting, my friends, as much as it was not no big set of money, they would have tried to cut here, cut there, hustle here, hustle there, but it's something that they look forward to every fortnight that they could depend on, and then you will work around it and not become beggars. So they would try to manage the little money. So what about those persons who have been dismissed from their jobs. The 52,000 or over 50,000 persons, our citizens, have been dismissed from their jobs, my friends. They came home from work, and when time to go back to work on Monday, no work for them on Monday because they're home and they're hearing that they have been shut down, and they're looking for ghosts. Yeah, and they found 8,000 ghosts. Yeah. Yeah. My friends, what we are speaking about here is we can compare the difference between the two governments at this very moment. We had a government before, led by Dr. Rowley, the PNM government, where they inherited in 2015, coming into office, a recession, my friends. The central bank governor declared that we are in a recession. What happens in a recession? Automatically, investors run away, persons lose their job, the business community, business contract, the economy contracts, and persons lose their job, family mash up, and it's chaos. While the government was dealing with a recession, trying to keep people in their jobs as little as it was, a pandemic came, a worldwide pandemic that was killing people and destroying economies and destroying lives, my friends. Our government at that time, while in a recession, was able to keep everyone in their jobs, the URP, the CPEP, the nurses, the doctors, from the bottom come up, remain in their jobs. All they would tell us, listen, we're going to take a measure, so all to tighten up, tighten the belt, tighten the belt, tighten the belt. And listen, the subsidy we have on gas, we're going to take it away, and we take it away, and we take it away, and as they say, they raise gas 4 times. But the people remain in their jobs, even though it appears as though things was getting tougher and harder. So we quarreling, we cussing, but we still in our jobs. We were home because part of the treatment with the pandemic is that businesses had to be shut down. Persons who self-employed, and while being self-employed, they may have somebody employed with them. The government then had to register, and then they were getting funds so that they themselves could now see about their children, because remember the government shut down the job, whatever work they had. So they then put things in place so that these people lives, as much as there will be some disruption, something was given to ease the burden. Now there's a part of this pandemic thing that I really have not heard much to talk about, except recently, where a court ruled that our government at that time was oppressive, they thought, by not allowing our citizens to come home with the pandemic. They closed down the airports and whatever. But one of the things that they're not saying is that while our citizens were outside, trapped, and couldn't come home, there was a mechanism in place to send monies for them out. Yeah. So, because they were citizens. So my friends, now, somehow, we find that during that period, things was hard, and some of us may even think that the government was wicked, and then we had an opposition who is saying that there was real money, and the government was keeping it away from the people. And we now, when we come into office, we will give you that money. So vote for us, and you will get a big back pay with consolidation of COLA, my friends. And the people decided that they're going with this government while when they were in opposition, and so we're looking forward, now that we come into office, the government that we voted for, we're now looking forward for them to fulfill that promise. Because even the Prime Minister, while campaigning, would have said, she will find the money. I will find the money. Now, Our finance minister a few days ago is saying, listen, the reason why no monies have been allocated, and listen, there's some people in the parliament had to beat it out of him for him to admit that, you know. Yes, they had to beat it out of him for him to admit that, listen, no money has been allocated, you know. So we get it clear now that no money has been allocated, but they have an excuse as to why. And the reason is that we in government doesn't operate like the PNM. You have to negotiate first. We would know how much money at the end of the negotiations, and then we would allocate the monies or find the monies. Yeah. Then if that is the case, why then didn't the minister inform the CPO? They came into office in April, end of April, May. Even if you're settling in May. We are June, where you're going to the parliament. Good. So you could have said, listen, we will not be making any provisions for the 10% in this budget in June, but most likely we will look to see if we could get it for next budget, which is in October. So what they did, they failed to start the negotiation process, even though he's claiming that is the way you have to negotiate first. So he deliberately did not call for the CPO and the PSA to meet to negotiate first. But you know, there are many other things in the budget that they would have allocated and estimated for without anybody at all being present in whatever. I will give an example. There's an allocation in the budget of $310 million and $475 million have been allocated. It amounts to $785 million for persons that they're planning to get employed. They're planning for these people, whoever, nobody apply for employment yet, but they are able to average and estimate for persons who have not even work, no employment. But if you could do that, then how then you're telling us that you have to first negotiate so you go know how much? My friends, the budget estimate, that is what it is. The budget is an estimate from each ministries that you would give because our projection, it have debts and it have projects that you want to put in place, and you have an estimated cost that is put together by the bright people in the ministry, each ministry. But they had no consideration, my friend. No consideration was given to the people that brought them in office, my friends. None. None at all. None at all. For the public servants that they would have lied to. Yeah, lied to, my friends, with the assistant of the president and the first vice president at the time, Leroy Batiste, and a lady called Felicia Thomas, my friends. Lie to the workers. Lie. Yeah. And they continue the lies. My friends, the promises and public servants, the promises that was made was based on our energy sector. And the plan that our Prime Minister would have put together while in opposition, so that when she come into office is to execute the plan. And the plan was that we will go Guyana and Grenada because they have more oil and gas than the Dragon deal in Venezuela. She made that announcement on the very day that she got her instrument of appointment as Prime Minister from the President. Only for the Guyana President, Prime Minister, I can't remember exactly which one, dismiss her with a dotish talk. The Grenada people, in Grenada, the Prime Minister had to answer the people and They don't know what gas and what oil she's speaking about. My friends, now our Prime Minister has been advocating, apart from CARICOM, for war in our hemisphere, including America using here as a base to send bombs and kill the people in Venezuela, my friends. That is what it is. They're going to kill our neighbors, blow them up, just as they did the people in the Gaza, my friends. And how the bombs kill the people in Ukraine. That is what our Prime Minister has been advocating for, claiming that a man named Maduro, Nicolas Maduro, the president of Venezuela, yes, my friend, and this is the flag here, you know. The president of Venezuela is in charge of a drug operation so large and so huge that it is in fact known as a narco trafficking government that is running Venezuela, my friend. And our Prime Minister hate persons who deal in drugs. She hate them because they just cause death, trafficking in human, so she dislike them. Yeah, so all they didn't know that? Yeah, she view them as the scum of the earth, our Prime Minister. Nice Prime Minister to have. Our Prime Minister view the actions of Maduro as a dictator, as one who would have stolen the elections from the people in Venezuela. Now, she is a Trinidadian, you know, but she's very much concerned of Venezuela. In fact, she's concerned more about Venezuela more than Trinidad. At the point where she has declared in our parliament that Maduro, the drug trafficker, gun runner, human trafficker, money launderer, must be removed from office. And she did remove him. She replaced Maduro as Nicolas Maduro as the president of Venezuela in our parliament, because she hates drug traffickers and drug pushers and anyone who dealing in drugs and guns and human trafficking. She hates that. So she went to our parliament and then declared in our parliament that a man called Juan Guaido is the recognized president of Venezuela, my friends. Now, all of that she was doing while our government, the government of Trinidad and Tobago at the time, a government led by a man called Dr. Keith Rowley, was fighting and negotiating for years with Venezuela to assist us with the oil and gas field that they have, that is not in use. But in order for it to get for us to get use, Venezuela must get some kind of benefit. And when that deal was agreed to, it was on the brink of starting to come home. There was a change in government in America. And with that change, Donald Trump became the president and he stopped the license that was granted to start to bring the gas home. He stopped it. So the thing shut down. And when our Prime Minister came into office, because of the promises that she made, she declared that that dragon deal that the PNM was for years trying to bring home here is dead. Dead, dead, dead. And don't panic, Guyana and Grenada have what we need. When Guyana and Grenada said they don't know what she's speaking about, she said, all right, we will go Suriname. My friends, our Prime Minister is in the newspapers very regular these days. speaking about all kind of things and saying all kind of stupidness. Nothing that making sense. Just not to come and tell the people of Trinidad and Tobago if what the Venezuelan vice president, that statement she would have made concerning Trinidad and Tobago economy and concerning the very prime minister that we have and voted for, if these things are truth. Yeah, I see how they calling the law association filth and all kind of thing, you know. They filth. Yeah. And now I wake up and I see where she's saying that them PNM people and them dealing in drugs or drug people supporting them. Yeah. My friends, that is the same kind of talk she was talking about Maduro. That is the same kind of wild and stupid talk. Yeah. But when it comes to serious business, the business of the people, the business that we voted for, the reason why we voted for you is to govern this country. And if the Venezuelans are claiming that our economy depends on their gas and oil alone, because they would have made some kind of assessment that apparently we here didn't make, or the present government, because one of the things that Dr. Rowley would always say is that if we don't get that gas deal in Venezuela, we're in real trouble. So it looks as though the Venezuelans who are willing to give us that gas and the gas deal, they understood how important it is to the people of Trinidad and Tobago, including Kamla Persad-Bissessar with her dunceness and those persons who are following her, because they are all also our citizens. So they would have put even that kind of dotage behavior behind to ensure the greater good take place, my friends. You know, while telling us that the Dragon deal is dead, she secretly went and applied for the same OFAC license from America without telling us, who now voted for her. She went to the United Nations and come back saying that she have good news. And the good news is that the Dragon deal is back on. How the Dragon deal could be back on? Who applied for the license? Not knowing, my friends, that the license was applied for on May the 19th. No newspaper, no reporter, no one told us that, because they kept it to themselves. You know why? They were ashamed. They were ashamed, my friends, that they couldn't come to us with the nasty things that she would have said, she and members of her government, about the Venezuelan people, about these drug people, and these nasty people. She could not come to us and tell us, listen, I am about to crawl. I am about to crawl on my knees and beg. That is what I'm going to do, because I love the people of Trinidad and Tobago, and I put in Trinidad and Tobago first. So even if it means I'm going and beg and I'm going and crawl, it is for all your interests. She couldn't come and do that. Secretly. And she went and she got the OFAC license, my friend, and came back here jumping up. And people in Trinidad and Tobago jumping up, you know, because we saying what? The thing back on stream. Yeah. Not knowing the license that they gave her. Trinidad and Tobago, listen to this, you know. The license that her war colleague, yes, her comrade in war, her ally, a friend, give her, is one where Trinidad and Tobago, Venezuela had to agree and sign and agree that Trinidad and Tobago will have access to the Dragon gas field, my friends. The PNM Dragon gas field. Yes. And Venezuela, now when we get a gas field, my friends, that is so that our energy sector could then start to act and bring wealth in this country. Our standard of living maintained, our banks full with money, credit union, man getting back pay, and we living nice. That's what the money and that gas was supposed to do. But Venezuela cannot get a cent from their own oil field, my friends. After cursing them people, after saying all these nasty things about them, you have to have real stamina, real belly, my friends. You have to have real, you have to be a strange one. Yeah. That she would now go setting an example for our young people. That you see when you wake up and you don't have thing and you can't nothing to eat and thing, you see the drug pusher and the drug trafficker, you could go by the corner and when you see him, you could beg him for money to buy bread. That is what she did. And that is the example she's setting for the people of Trinidad and Tobago, my friends. As a young man growing up, my mother would ask me, Preston, like dog eat your shame or what? That's something my mother used to tell me, you know, if I don't know what, for whatever I do. That is what it is. Where's the pride, my friends? It's a country, she's not representing herself. She's representing her people. And if you go in and crawl and beg to the drug lord that you hate, then tell we. So we go say, all right, well, at least we know that she go in and crawl and beg. Yeah. But we weren't supposed to know. Yeah. And not just crawl and beg. We're going to crawl and beg because what you're doing, you're actually telling them that we need the gas to survive, but all you can get no benefit from it, and it's all your own. That's what she went Venezuela and doing, my friends. That's what our government, in case we, listen, President, how you know that? My friend, that is what she's supposed, the reporters in Trinidad and Tobago, my friend, the only discussion that is supposed to be going on, not no worship, and not no drug thing with no PNM, is come and explain to the people of Trinidad and Tobago, similarly to how Dr. Rowley would come and sit down and explain to we the problems or the situation that we're in, how serious it is, and tighten up or something. Come and tell we, now that the Venezuelan vice president has told us what you didn't want to tell us, my friends. She, a man called Rudal Munilal, and the Attorney General, my friends, none of them, they choose not to tell us what was the conditions of the OFAC license, my friends. Why? They didn't believe. They couldn't believe because they didn't expecting that the vice president of Venezuela would come and tell us. She came and tell us. Delcy Rodriguez is her name, my friends. Delcy Rodriguez. Every Trinidadian supposed to would want to meet that lady. Every Trinidadian. You would want to meet that lady. You know why? That lady is a lady of substance and truthfulness. What our Prime Minister was afraid to tell us, that our economy and our standard of living and the 10% that they promise and all the plans that they have depend on Venezuela, on that drug pusher or drug narcotic government that she hate, my friends. I hate them, but I'm going and crawl and beg. So our Prime Minister is crawling on her belly, my friends. Crawling, begging a drug pusher, a human trafficker. Begging. Didn't want us to know. Didn't want us to know. We're not supposed to know that. Miss Delcy Rodriguez in the Guardian newspaper, she said, our Prime Minister, good friend and ally, Marco Rubio, sold our Prime Minister pregnant birds, my friend. Right, listen. Man say, what stupid is he talking? I'm telling you. In Trinidad, we just have our own slang. A man will say, boy, you see that? And a green donkey, you will never see. The language, the diplomatic language that this lady is saying and using where our Prime Minister is concerned, my friends. It is disturbing. That is besides declaring that our Prime Minister is taking us over a cliff. Taking us? Or we done going over the cliff already? Or are we over the cliff? Yeah. Because my friends, not long after this government, the UNC led by Kamla Persad-Bissessar, came into office, because of the nasty-minded people that is in charge, they remove all the qualified people who would have brought stability with certain institutions, certain important institutions in our country. And when they interfered with that because of the political dunceness, the international body look on and say, well, what? Well, like you're crazy. And they install us that dunce all about the place who don't know what they're doing. So they came and they said, listen, the projection that we had where Trinidad and Tobago was on a steady path of growth, my friends, after 10 years, for the first time in 10 years. We ain't just gone back to where we was to start growing, you know? They downgrade us. We didn't just come back to the starting point. We fall below the starting point, downgrade. And then just downgrade the economy and the country, they downgraded two of our major banks. These are the discussions, my friends, where are all those bright economists and political analysts, my friends? Where are they? What kind of discussion we having in Trinidad at this present time? The only discussions, my friends, we're supposed to be having in this country at this time is the state of our economy and where we really heading, you know. The former finance minister, short-lived, with Stuart Young, he asked the present finance minister about 600 million US that was in reserve. Cannot be accounted for. When you look around, no new building has been built, nobody get hired, people get fired. In fact, what happened to that money, my friends? 600 million gone and nobody can account for it by the UNC government. Yeah. This is the discussion that, let me tell you something, my friends. Just as they started, that is the same way when they were leaving in 2010, in 2015, my friends. That is how they left. That is how they left. The last working day, Trinidad and Tobago, listen to this. The day before, the last working day before the election in 2015, which would be a Friday, because the election is Monday, a clause in a contract that was the project for the highway, my friends, a clause that would have protected the people of Trinidad and Tobago was removed, allowing foreigners to leave our country with close to about 30 million short of $1 billion that belongs to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. I talk about the last working day before the elections. So what they did, they look around and say, well, what did I have left? What we could go with? Knowing fully well that we were in a recession because they were in government. They knew it had no money. But the last billion, my friends, yeah, And when the government came into office, led by Dr. Rowley, he sent men overseas to bring back the money. And they brought it back. And you know why they were able to bring it back? Yeah, they went in the courts outside. Because the people went with our monies with the help of government ministers led by Kamla Prasad Bisesa, went with our money $1 billion, $30 million short of $1 billion. And the courts outside, when they weigh the matter, they say, but this money doesn't belong to all you. How are you going to put this money? And this country was able to get back that money and finish the highway. That was when they was leaving. 3 months after they come into office, my friends, 600 million US gone missing that nobody seemed to want to answer. And it's from the reserve. That is affecting our economy and is assisting in the downward slide. So if we doesn't get the gas from the drug pushers and the drug cartel and the human traffickers in Venezuela, our Prime Minister must come and tell us what, because what Ms. Rodriguez would have said is that, and she is a bright woman, you know. You know what that lady said? She said, listen, because she understands the importance of Trinidad and Tobago economy, one of the reasons why they would have agreed to give us the gas. Because our economy is not just our economy. She understands that when our economy is up and running, CARICOM is a happy place. CARICOM is a happy place, my friends. But if Trinidad and Tobago is not in a place where they are able to manage and to sustain themselves, my friends, it's not just Trinidad and Tobago will be affected. It's CARICOM. And you would wonder, why would these Venezuelan people be so concerned about CARICOM? CARICOM they view CARICOM as their friend. They view CARICOM as their friend, and they wish that nothing bad happened to CARICOM, my friends. So they knew that if Trinidad and Tobago and its economy is in trouble, they know that CARICOM is in trouble. Let me tell you why. CARICOM trade is here every Wednesday and Tuesdays and Wednesdays or Thursdays. You will see boats coming from St. Vincent and Grenada, my friends. They're just part of the CARICOM, where they bring in their produce to do the trade, so that people home have a market, so they could trade, plant, and we will buy, and whatever we have here, our manufacturers send back up. So trade among ourselves. And if we don't have the money to buy the goods from Grenada, and the boat and them will stop coming. So stagnation is going to take place in Grenada, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Barbados and Jamaica and these places. So the Venezuelans, who were always friends with CARICOM, and if we guessing, just read up or check up on a man called Hugo Chavez, my friends. Hugo Chavez. And these little things, yeah, like our Prime Minister, our dunce Prime Minister, doesn't know anything except stupid talk and dotish talk and dunce talk. Have you all ever heard her carrying a proper conversation with the people of Trinidad and Tobago? Or in any forum, my friends? That is sensible? That is enlightening? These are the people, my friends, that is in charge of our country in one of the most critical times in our history. Yeah. So my friends, that is what, or I'm going to pause on that matter for the hour. Yesterday, I told my friends there's two religious issues that I would have raised one a time ago concerning, and I just want to touch on a little bit concerning whether Jesus was black or white. And I said that the white man, the European man, they painted him white with blue eyes and blonde hair. And the black man think that them was wrong to paint him like that. He really looking like we. So them paint him black. And I say, well, the disciples, everybody black. Good. And then, so that was always a discussion. You know, persons want to identify him or want him to look like them. And then recently, a man called Vladimir Putin would have gone into the archives in Russia and pull out a set of black paintings, or paintings where the disciples and Jesus was black. So that gave those persons who believe that he was black, give them almost strength. Look, even Russia have it. That the white man or the European man, right? But the story of Jesus can be found in the Bible, and both the white man and the black man agree that the Bible have the story of the Jews or the man they call Jesus. My friends, Jesus came from a lineage, the lineage of a man called Jacob. Jacob, his name was changed from Jacob to Israel, and his children were called the children of Israel. There was a famine in the land in Canaan, and he traveled down to Egypt with his sons. One was already down there because they had sold him, one named Joseph. And they grow in numbers, a great multitude. A great multitude. And then different pharaohs would have changed and rulers, and they put them in bondage and had life, and they prayed that God would, and he did take them out from Egypt. He sent a man called Moses. I run it quick. And this is a story all of us know. Take them out of Egypt, but here this part here. Promised them that they're going to go over into a land called the Promised Land that he would have promised Abraham and their forefathers. Right. But hear what in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 26, from 1 to 6, God was telling Moses, before they go over into the land, when you go over into the land, you shall take the first fruits of the basket and put it in a basket and give it to the priest. The priest shall lay down at the altar, and these are the words that you all must repeat. So besides the action of picking the fruit and putting the basket and giving the priest, God also give them something to say and to repeat. And hear what it says. My father, a Syrian, sojourned into Egypt, a few, he and his sons. And with the Egyptian evil entreated us, and with the mighty hands of God or Jehovah, brought us out of Egypt. So these are the words that they were supposed to repeat when they go over into the land. But one of the things that is said there is that God was telling Moses to let them know that their father, their great-great-great-grandfather, Jacob, was of Syrian stock. Syrian. Not African, not Egyptian, not Nubian, not no white man, nothing like that. He was of Syrian stock. Jacob, father, before his name was changed to Jacob, and even his name was changed from Jacob to Israel, one of Abraham's sons, Abraham had two sons, Isaac and Ishmael, to start with. Isaac, Jacob is the son of Isaac, Isaac is the son of Abraham. When Abraham was about to die, this can be found in Genesis chapter 22, 24 and 25. These three chapters. When Jacob was about to die, when Abraham was about to die, he told his servant, listen, make sure that Isaac don't take a wife in the land of Canaan. Let him go home to my relative, my kinsmen, my family, and take a wife. It is recorded that Jacob married a lady named Rebecca. Hear this? Rebecca had a brother named Laban. The Bible records that Laban, when it describes Laban, it says Laban the Syrian. Listen good. So, but Laban the Syrian was the brother of Rebecca, who Isaac married. So they were brothers and sisters. Their father was a man named Bethuel. The Bible called him Bethuel the Syrian. So Bethuel the Syrian was the father of Laban the Syrian and Rebecca. Bethuel the Syrian father now is a man called Nahor. Nahor is Abraham's brother. The Bible records that leaving Ur of the Chaldees with their father, a man named Terah, Abraham and Nahor left because they had a brother named Haran who would have died even before they started the journey. So Nahor had a son named Bethuel, Bethuel the Syrian. So when the Bible, thousands of years, told the Israelites that all your forefather, Jacob, is of Syrian stock, using the Bible, my friends, it is recorded, and the one that they call the Christ is of the Israelite stock. So if you're talking about a people or genetically speaking, based on the Bible, the stock is Syrian. The question then is, how then does black people and other people making the claim that they are in fact the Israelites, and even making the claim that they are the true Israelites, them alone? My friends, in the book of Exodus chapter 12, from about verse 37, 38, and then you can go to 48 if you want to read the whole thing. The Bible records that when the Israelites, the children of Israel, left Egypt, a mixed multitude also leave Egypt and went with them. Listen, a mixed multitude, meaning a people of all manner of mankind, join with these people, that is the children of Israel, Syrian stock, join with them and decide, you see this thing? This God will do all this thing here? We're going with that, we following all here. And then hear what God instructed the Israelites, Moses and Aaron and them in the desert. He said, listen, you see these strangers who sojourn with you? Let him first be circumcised. Listen. And when he's circumcised, he can now partake in a celebration or a ceremony known as the Passover. And when he's circumcised, he shall become and be treated as one of you who has been born in the land, meaning a born Israelite. So what that tells you there, what Israel really is to God, is not a particular look or a people looking a certain how. Even though the Bible went on to explain to you that the lineage and where it came from, what God, the Israel that God is speaking about is made up of all color mankind, so long as they accept him. And let me just add this. There's a people who speak and declare themselves Hebrew Israelites. Black people, my friends? There's no people in history, there's no record of any people being called or any land owned or occupied by any people named or called Hebrew Israelites. The people that is known as Jews, at one time, in fact, they were called Israelites, and then according to where they ended up in history in Babylon, the Babylonians called them Jews, and then up in the next place, they call them Hebrew, because when Abraham left Chaldees, who of the Chaldees his father, he ended up in a place called Canaan, and the Canaanite, as one who is a stranger come across in the land, them call him Hebrew. And Hebrew really is a derogatory word, a Canaanite derogatory word for a man who migrates, a stranger. So that word in itself is not even part of the original language that the Syrians would speak. So there is no people there's the same people that they call Israelites. There's no such people as a Israelite Jew or a Jew Hebrew or a Hebrew Israelite. There's no such people, my friends. All right? So that is the short version for the hour. There's another issue that I was asked to share with you all. Whoever listens, listen, anytime anybody, I am open to correction and guidance. Now, there's a teaching by a group of people known as the Jehovah's Witnesses. Now, they have a history, a strange history, but I'm not going into the history because I think it's a more important thing that to treat with rather than their history. As much as the history is important, at this moment, one of the things that I'm concerned about is that they believe, and their teachings is that only 144,000 persons will be going to heaven to reign as kings and priests with the Christ. Now, that is a basic, that is a foundation teaching that the members believe, my friends. Now, the Bible mentioned the 144,000 twice in the whole Bible. God decided to tell us, to share with us information about the 144,000 in 2 chapters of the Bible. It is clear, my friends. Nowhere when God decided to tell us about the 144,000 did he ever tell us that they will be kings and priests and reign with the Christ. If that's an important role that they have, what could make God not tell us when he actually mentioned clearly, and he's going to tell us about the 144,000 in Revelation chapter 7, where the sealing of the 144,000, 7,000, 12,000 from this tribe, 12,000 to 144. Revelation chapter 14, John saw 144,000 standing on Mount Zion with the Christ, and in their mouth was found no guile, and there's nowhere when God tells us about the 144,000 that they're going to rule as kings and priests in the heavens and them alone. So if the Bible doesn't say that, then it is clear that it's an interpretation that some bright people come up with. And nothing wrong with interpretation where the Bible is concerned, no, my friends. But you must be able to get scriptures to support your interpretation. But if the Bible have information that is opposite your interpretation, and it doesn't have the information to even give you a foundation, then what could make you continue like that? And my friend, let me tell you this. The man who owned the kingdom, one that they call the Christ, in the book of Revelation, chapter 3, verse 20 and 21, hear what he said. He said, listen, he said, I am knocking. This is the Christ talking. There can't be more kingdom man than he. He's telling us, he said, I am knocking. And any man who opens the door, he will come in. So he's knocking, he outside, he's knocking. So he's telling you, I am knocking on your heart. And if you open your heart, I will enter, and I will be your friend, and I will eat and line with you. We are friends, we are partners. That Revelation chapter 3, verse 20, it starts in there. And then here we went on to say, and to him, when I enter, yeah, that conquer or overcome it, meaning when we are friends and you die with me and you being friends, it means that you would have lived your life in such a way in keeping with the teachings of me. Hear what's happening. To him that overcometh, yes, and conquer the kingdom man, he said, I will grant you, the overcomer, an opportunity to come and sit with me on my throne, just as I overcame and I sat down on my father's throne. Now that's a promise from the man who owned the kingdom. How a man could read that in the Bible? Cannot see anywhere in the Bible where God tells him that the 144,000 going to rule and them are going to heaven. The man who owns the kingdom is promising the overcomer. Any man who overcometh, the part of part of the prize is not just everlasting life. He is telling you that you will come and see where I dwell and spend some time there with me. And I said some time because the earth was made for man. The earth was made for man. Yes? So, because you would have conquered and turned your back on the things of the world, he said part of the prize is to come and sit down with me up there. You know? And if in case you're wondering which part he's saying now will be on his throne, in the book of Thessalonians, 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, from about 16 to 18, it says that with the trumpet of God and the voice of the archangels, the dead, meaning the overcomer, the dead in Christ, which is the overcomer, shall rise first. So you're rising. Good. So a resurrection is taking place. And we who are alive at that time will join with the overcoming dead and be taken off the earth and meet him in the clouds. So Thessalonians confirming that the overcomers Paul was being shown in Thessalonians, look, the overcomers is being taken off the earth. So the righteous, which is the overcomers, will be taken off the earth. But as Revelation chapter 3, verse 20 and 21 says, they'll just be taken over, and Thessalonians only see them in the clouds. But then Christ told John to tell us in the book of Revelation that you see them fellas who always see in the cloud, they don't just remain in the cloud. The promise is that they, the overcomers, shall come and sit with me on my throne. So John finished the journey as to where we will end up when we reach in the cloud. So my friend, that's just a short thing that I think that you know, person should look at, and it is a sad thing that it is there in the Bible. It is there in the Bible. One of the things that the Jehovah's Witnesses would read, they said that in the book of Luke, somewhere in the book of Luke, Jesus was speaking to the disciples and he said, he called them a little flock. He promised the kingdom to them. He was with these men and he promised them the kingdom. Good. So since he promised them the kingdom, it's 12 of them and it's 144,000. So they would make up part of the 144,000 to rule. Yeah. But then the same Jesus went on to promise that any man who overcometh will come and sit with him on his throne, which is ruling. Yeah, sit on a throne. So we cannot allow persons to conveniently mislead people like that. So that's why I'm sharing this information, my friends. And you have a blessed evening and keep good. And that's just a little piece of the thing. Have a nice evening. Thank you. Until we meet again.